Hi folks, only me. So, it's been a while, a few weeks now. Been waiting for parts for this little bike. On the last video we changed the bushes for the front suspension, put a new front tyre on it, and maybe did a few little extra jobs. But we also pulled the engine apart because it was burning a lot of oil and we found broken piston rings. So I've bought an aftermarket piston complete with the rings and the seal, the oil seal, and the new pin and clips, and an original gasket set. So today I'll be getting my head around what I pulled apart before. I've got all my parts here. Take this apart again. I shall take the rings off the piston and check the end gaps when it's in the cylinder, when they're in the cylinder, and get this thing back together. I've got my trusty Haynes manual for a few little measurements like end gaps and what have you. So without further ado, I shall start by doing the end gaps in the cylinder. So looking in my book, I've got the gap here. It says piston ring, 2 compression and 1 oil control, and the minimum gap is 4 thou. So I've got a 4 thou feeler gauge here. As long as this slides in okay in the gap, once these rings are in this cylinder, we're good to go. If it's too tight, we'll just have to take a little bit off the end with some light emery cloth, well, wet and dry. So to do that, I've got these in order. That was the top one. I think they're the same, but I'm going to keep them in the order as they came off. And with these piston rings, they have got a shape to them, and you'll notice if I come up close, if it's going to focus. It may not focus, but on there's a very small T on the top. It's not going to focus, unfortunately. Oh, look at that. But can you see it in this terrible light? There is a small T on the top of that, which goes to the top, and the same with the other ring and the oil ring as well. So let's check this gap. So to do that, we're going to put, see if you're in the camera, yeah. We're going to put the ring into the bore, and using the piston, push it down to a part of the cylinder. Well, I'm going to go about 10 mil down. I was going to say a part of the cylinder that's worn, but I think about 10 mil down is fine. Yeah. And now you'll see, let's have a look. You should be able to see a little gap. There it is. And we've got to measure that. I've got my 4 thou feeler gauge. And that goes in. That goes in nicely. Can't really see that. So that's good. I expected it to. I'm going to do that with the rest of them, and then get the rings back on the piston, ready for installing onto the conrod. Well, the 2 rings are okay, but the oil ring, there's no gap at all. In fact, when it was in the bore, it was crossed over. It wouldn't go in the bore at all. So what I've got here is a flat file and some. It's actually emery cloth, but it's quite fine. And all I'm going to do, if you can see that, yeah, I'm going to just feather a little bit off of each end of the oil ring, nice and gentle, as square as I can do it, on each side here. and keep putting it in. You can see that's just not going in because it's not enough gap there. So I shall work with that. Might take a little while. We'll get there. Right, so the piston is back together now. It's got to be fitted. There's a little arrow on here, and that points down. And also, you've now got to set these rings so that the gaps are 120 degrees, or roughly 120 degrees apart from each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the oil seal at the top, the gap at the top, and then I will be moving the second ring down here. It's about 120 degrees, and the top ring about there. So that's how I'll be fitting it. I've fitted one of the clips already on this side, and you're supposed to fit it so that when the clip's in, you haven't got the gap on this piston in the same place as the gap on the ring, if you know what I mean. So the gap on the little retaining ring here, the circlip, is at the top. So I'm now going to fit the gasket. Now, I was going to fit this dry, but in the Haynes manual it says put a little bit of Hylamar on it, just a little bit of sealant. The other one didn't have one on. In the factory I don't think they put Hylamar on, but I'm thinking, just in case I've got an oil leak after putting this on, I could kick myself, because now's the time to put just a small amount of sealer on here. So I'm using this stuff here. Apparently Rolls-Royce always used to use this, so there you go. So it doesn't need much, just a little smear. Put that on now. The last thing we want is any oil leaks after all this work. There we go, I think that'll be alright. So we're going to fit that over the dowels. That will locate it, and the Hylamar will stick it down. I've already checked that the tappets are in there, the tappet buckets, or whatever you call them. They're in there. So the next thing is fit the piston. I shall put a little bit of heat on it just to heat it up, because I think that's going to be a bit tight. Well, that's not too bad. Now that'd be good by the time it's got oil on it. So I'm going to put some oil on here, on the small end. I won't put oil on the rings yet. And making sure we got the arrow pointing down. Well, that went in there a minute ago. There we go. We're going to just pop that in there. Good. Push that home. Right, now the next thing I'm going to do is put the circlip in, but I don't want to risk dropping it into any of the engine, so I'll put this tea towel in here. Because these things do tend to go flying sometimes. It's a brand new circlip which came with a piston. You should always fit a new one, apparently. or new circlips to a new piston, or even an old piston. Don't ask me why. Wow, when I say that, it does make sense, because that's the last thing you want coming out if it's been in there a long while and it's lost a bit of tension, because that'll just bugger everything up. So it's a bit cold today and I'm not thinking. Right, so somehow I've got to get this in without it flying across the workshop, and that can be a bit awkward. So let's I'm using a little pair of pliers there, but to get the other one in I used a dumpy screwdriver, and I tried to keep my thumb over the rest of the circlip in case it went flying. So I'll pop that in. Come on, you little bugger. I'm probably panicking because I'm on film. And I don't want to bugger it up. Right, let's go. Ah, you little sod. The last one I put in, so it ended up with the gap on both the gaps were lined up, and then I spun it round, and that might be what I'm going to have to do here as well. Of course, I'm trying to keep out of the way of the camera as well. There we go, that's gone in. And now I've just got to move that round so that the gap isn't at the side, the gap's at the top. Get a torch. Yeah, it's got a little way to go yet. Come on. Bit of a cheap pair of pliers, this. So the gap has gone round, but I want to move it a little bit, so just so it's at the top. There we go. So that's that bit done. So I'll take this out, line up my rings, and that one over there. Good. And put a load of oil on them. Get my cylinder, and I'm going to put a bit of Hynamol on the cylinder. Just a bit round here. little bit of oil in here. And there's a lead on here. It will help you help putting the piston rings in. So what we do now is get in a position where I can start that off and push the rings in. Yeah, easier said than done. You can get a little ring compressor, but I haven't got one. You've got to just gently push them in. You don't want to break them. Using your nails. It's a bit easier with a two-stroke because usually haven't got the base of the cylinder is usually cut away. So I'm hoping I can do this. That's one. That's good. That's one there. Oh, I've got to make sure the gap's okay on that other one. I think it is. And I'll push that one in. Right, trapping the rubber glove in there. Yeah, I can see that sticking out quite nastily. Come on, in you go. Push the side of it. Got to be very careful not to break them. At the moment, it's not playing ball. This is where I need a ring compressor. I might have to think about making up a ring compressor for this. There's that gap, those gaps there, that gap's there. The other thing sometimes you can do, you put the piston in first and then put the pin in. Put the gudgeon pin in and the circlip, but then you've got all this weight hanging down, so it's not ideal. Right, I'm gonna carry on with that. Come on. I might have to think about some sort of ring compressor. I'll get a bit of tin perhaps and with some mouldy grips to compress them. That's what I might have to do. We'll have a look at that. So that's not good. That's a bit of a failure really at the moment. Never mind. Okay, I've made a little clamp which may or may not work. Let's give it a go. It's just made out of a bit of alley. So put that on there and squash that up down. That should squash the rings in. I was going to put a clamp on here, but I don't want it too tight, that's the trouble. The other thing was to put a nut and bolt in there. But if I just clamp that, it's quite loose. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's have a look. Well, that seems to have worked. That's got it. Push that in there. There we go. Oh. Right, I'm gonna. Oh, I can't turn the engine. I don't think, because it's connected. I've got the back wheel clamped, but I think I'll now bolt this down loosely with the 2 bolts. There's one up here and one down the bottom, I think, and then release the back wheel just so I can make sure that feels nicely going up and down. Get some oil in there as well, and go from there. Good. Glad I got that in. Right, there's 2 little bolts that hold the bottom of the cylinder in, and they're different lengths. And the long one goes on the left-hand side. They don't have washers. I didn't have washers when I took it apart, and the Haynes manual, it doesn't look as though they've got them either. So all I'm going to do now is just nip them up. There is a torque loading for them. I'll just get them in place, and then I'll torque all the head and cylinder bolts up at the same time. So that's that. I did have the back wheel out of the clamp there, and it moves up and down nicely, the piston. So I believe the next thing now is the head gasket. So I'll use a little bit of Hylamar again. That's that, and a bit on the head. There we go. A nice new head gasket. Which way that goes? Yes, there's a little oil feed there. So that goes on like that onto those 2 ring dowels, and there's the oil feed there. I think it's an oil feed. It must be. Right, so I shall pop that on. That's it. And I've got various bolts. Hope that don't fall off. Stay there. I've got various bolts in here. This one's a giveaway. That's got the little bracket on it for the cable for the decompression, so that goes in there. And so I'll just nick these down. There we go. And now the next one is that one there, which is the longest bolt I've got. These go into the crankcase, two top ones. And these two here, which are the same length, they go into the top of the cylinder. Hope I've got that right. I think I have. And that's going to go, yeah, there's clearance there for those two nuts, two bolt heads. And so there was no washers when I took it apart. But there is a torque loading. Now generally, I'll just nip it up. I know what I'm doing with these things. But we ought to use the torque loading really, if we can. And it's set out. It should be, just check this. In the book it says, I'll bloody find it now. In the book it says engine, cylinder head. They're 6mm bolts and they're 6.5 to 8.6 foot-pounds. So 8.6 foot-pounds, according to my calculations, is 103 inch-pounds, and that's what this is in. And I did tighten up one before, and it clicked. And then I checked it with my just ratchet, and it was there. So we're happy with that. So we're just going to go around these. Now I'm using an extension here, which kind of affects the torque a little bit, but it will be fine. If you're doing an aircraft engine, you'd have to work out how much this twists, and you always want to use the shortest possible. Actually, I can do it on these, can't I? The shortest possible extension, because you'll get an incorrect torque. Now for these ones, I can get rid of that. There we go. Go diagonally. And the bottom ones I can't get on, so I'm going to put the extension on. There we go. So just put me, yeah, that's good. I'm happy with that. Okay. Next thing, push rods, I think. Yeah, push rods go in next. So I've got two trays here, exhaust and inlet, and I marked them with these little flags, and I should have put T for top, but I'm pretty sure I had T on the top. I had the tape on the top. Right, so that's the exhaust. There we go. We can put a bit of oil on there. That's going to go into the exhaust one. the inlet one. Because I took this apart so long ago, I have to keep double checking what I'm up to. So I've got a rocker here, and that's the exhaust rocker. So this goes on there, I think. Yeah, there we go. Then there's a nut. Special nut that has got that radius bit on it. I'll just leave it loose. We've got to get the engine in the right position and then do the check the tappet clearance. That's that one. And I didn't put any oil on the other one, but it should be right. Put that in there. Right, I'm just doing that loose to start with, and what I'm going to do now, I undo this back wheel so I can spin the engine. Come on. That's caught on the clamp. There we go. Right, that's going down. Coming up. That is either exhaust or compression. Right, that I believe I'm going to have to I'll probably set up the engine. I'll probably have to take the cover off the magneto and put the engine in the right position so I get these right. At the moment, yeah, that's right. So at the moment it's going down after compression, I believe, and the inlet's tight. But I go and set the engine up, and next thing we'll set the tappets. Right, because this is a 4-stroke, you've got to get the piston at top dead centre on the right stroke. And on the flywheel, I've took the cover off now, it just prizes off. And on the cover there's some marks. There's a little dimple in the crankcase. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a little dimple in there and some marks on the flywheel. So if I now turn this clockwise and look at the valves, at the moment the exhaust valve is going in. So that's the exhaust. So that's exited the exhaust, and then if you look at this, it's on top dead centre, but you can't adjust the valves because you've now got the inlet going down because the piston's going down and it's sucking in fuel. And we carry on turning it, and the piston will now be coming up. The inlet's closing, the piston will be coming up, and if you look on the flywheel, there's an F, and that's fire. so it should fire there. So already the valves are loose, the tappets are loose if you like. But we're now going to carry on to top dead center, and that's where you do your actual adjustment. And these are adjusted with these nuts here, and then there's a lock nut to go on after, and it's to 2 thousandths of an inch. So that's what I'm going to do now. Right, so put the 2 thou feeler gauge in, turn this just lightly, there we go. Now that's the inlet one. I'll put this nut on that came off of it. They're both the same. And I'm going to, I think that's 10mm. Yeah, both 10mm. So get a couple of 10mm spanners. Hold the nut, just the nut thing, Bobby, and put the lock nut down on it. Nip that up. Check it again. It will sometimes adjust it once you've tightened it. Might be too tight. I believe it is too tight now. So we've got to undo that again. Back it off a little bit, nip that up. Still a bit tight. Thinking about here. Right, let's nip that up there. If I get my bloody spanner on. Right, let's see what that's like. I don't know what's up with this. It's just a bit of a tight to get the spanner on, that is. Right, I'm going to move that out. There we go. So we're getting there now. To me, that's a little bit loose. Yeah, still a bit loose. So fiddly. Let's see if I can nip that up without touching the lock nut. That's better. And get that on there. There we go. The bugger it is. Such a coarse pitch on that stud. And undo that a little bit, like that. It only needs a little bit of my feeler gauge is broken. It only needs a little bit of movement, and we're only talking a few thou. That's too loose. Oh, bloody hell, come on. Right, knit that up. There we go. Back there again. And just double check this is tight. There we have it, I'm happy with that. Good. Right, I'll get the other one done, and then I'm going for some lunch. So, I'll get you back on the video in a few seconds. Okay, so I put the exhaust on off camera because there's nothing too exciting about that. And next thing I'm going to do is put the rocker box on, the rocker cover. So I've got this here. We have a new gasket. So I'm going to just put a bit of grease on here to hold it on while I'm fitting it. There it is there. Now, which way does this go on? Let's have a look. Oh, yeah. What's going on there then? Oh, here we are. There we are. For a second, I thought it was the wrong gasket. There we go. So, I'll get a bit of grease on this gasket. Just to hold it in place. Put that on there. Right. That should just pop on there. Perhaps I ought to just have this other bolt in as well to help me locate it. That's got to be round that way. Come on. Where's the treads? There we go. It's 10, I think. 10 mil socket. Doesn't seem to be much to locate it really, apart from that bottom bolt. But there we go. So I can feel that opening up the valve. I'll nip that up. That's good. And we can put this cable back on now. So that goes through there shouldn't really need adjusting. Apart from we did lap the valves in, but it doesn't seem to have much of a spring on it to pull it back. But maybe it just needs a bit of WD on here. I'm surprised it's oh, I've done wrong anything? I don't think so. It could be that the this little spring here, I don't know if that needs to be around on that bit there, give it a bit more tension. And I'll leave it for now there. We can look that up and even have a look at the video that when I took it apart. So that's that. We've got a spark plug to go in. It's a nice little spark plug. I've cleaned it up. Had quite a bit of that white sort of soot on it. And I've set it to 26 thou. So we'll pop that back in. I'll just put a bit of oh bloody hell. I better check that again. Better check that gap quickly. Oh dear. Just in case it landed on it. No, that's good. I want a little bit of copper slip on the thread. Pop that in there. And get the plug spanner out from under the seat. Go on there. Actually, I'll leave that off because I've got to put that gasket back in there. And it'll block the view from the camera. So, I invested in 4 screwdrivers. The JIS one, which is Japanese Industrial Standard, I think that stands for. And because the screws on these engines are that spec. If you try and use your Phillips, you generally bugger it up, but these fit nicely. So hopefully I'll be able to get in with, I can get in with that one. I'm not sure. That one should be able to get on there, but we'll see. So that's the next job, is to put this little inlet gasket on. I've got 2 screws. I will put all that. No, I won't. I won't put any sealer on here because I didn't use it before, and it was just getting a bit of a mess, I think. So lift that up and get the screws in. That's that one started. See if we can get that one started as well. Let's have a look. Can I get on that? It's a bit of an angle. So that's that one. Get dumpy on here. Actually, that's better. Use that one, I think. You can't get completely square on them, but at least it's the right angles now on the screwdriver. That's that one. That's that one. Okay. coming along nicely. So we put this back on here. Yeah, I think the next thing to do now, I'm going to have a bit of a clear up and check the oil, because I know it needs topping up with oil. When it was apart, I took it off a stand, forgot that the cylinder, well, I didn't forget, but I didn't realise I lifted it up and all the oil come out of the two holes where the tappets are. So I know it definitely needs some oil. So I'm going to take it off this wooden bit where the stand is and check the oil, and then we'll be going for a starter. Okay, ready for the startup. I use some classic 2050 castor oil in the gearbox, in the engine I mean. So yeah, we'll give it a go. Climb up here. Put the fuel on. Actually, I should have put the fuel on earlier. Give it a chance to fill up the bowl. Choke on. Come on. Give it a little bit of a throttle. Sounds alright. Set the idle, I think, but pretty good. Pleased with that. So I'll set the idle and then we get out on the road and go up and down the road a little bit for the end of the video. That's jolly good. Okay, here we go. It's a lovely day for a test ride. Get the old skid lid on. Bit of fuel.
There he goes.
ticking over nicely. Now it's warmed up. It's alright, what do you reckon?
Sounds nice.
No
Very
smoke.
quiet.
It is quiet because it's a Honda. No smoke.
I didn't see any.
I can't smell any before you could smell it. There we go. I think that's a success.
Well done.
Right, so yeah, that's good. Look forward to the next run. Should have been on a run today, 100 miler. But what with this not finished and a few little incidents at home, we had to not do that this year. But hope to be out on it soon. Maybe on the winter run after Christmas. And there we go. Right. Well, so for now, I'm just going to say bye for now. The camera girl's having a go on the PC50. I think any moment now she's going to lean it around this bend. There she is. Is it alright?
Yeah.
We have a problem?
The brakes aren't.
Alright. Smithy reckons those brakes are good compared with his. You're going round again, are you? Off she goes. The brakes aren't very good. Here she comes.
I'll get above 20.
That goes 30, that does. Mind you, we're running it in, so don't thrash it. Alright, love. You know what you got to say?